Good morning, game changers. How are you feeling today? How are you feeling in the end game? Welcome to the end game. We're supposed to be here to create changes. We are supposed to be here to serve justice for God. Who I am is Juniper Blue Mystique. That is the message, that is the name they gave me upon my awakening. My true name is Brianna. Excuse me. For we truly all have had multiple identities, multiple lifetimes, multiple ways in the existence of creation. Okay? And today, God gave me a special message. This is a very important message of justice. Now, I am the one who brought about the ascension, okay? It's been a very rough journey. It's not been an easy one, and I have been judged the entire way, okay? But the reality is I'm not just saying that. I can actually show you how I did it. It blew my mind the whole entire way. I actually did things to the earth since 2019. I rose Atlantis. I freed Jesus' soul because he was actually murdered and they had actually commandeered his soul, okay? I don't know if you guys are aware of that. The depiction of him on the cross is quite false. That's actually mocking God, okay? Because he didn't die on a cross. They stole his soul. They murdered him. They took his blood, wrote a false holy grail through Mary Magdalene. She died shortly after because of all of it. And that's a true story of Jesus, okay? Now, the reason I bring that up is because it's something very near and dear to my heart. So as I have brought about the ascension, I realized I was clearing my lifetimes because that's what we're supposed to be doing, is clearing any karma, clearing our lifetimes. That is the return of Christ. And God had something very important to say, so I wrote it down. And then today's guidance was a little deep, so I made sure I understood what he wanted me to say. Okay, so this is really important. Some of it came from the book of Genesis, and then when I was reading the book of Genesis, it was not accurate to what actually came through. Some of it is not. Some of it is man-made. So the lifetimes that I cleared and how I brought about the ascension is through Adam and Eve, Jesus and Mary Magdalene, and Sekhmet and Horus. Those are my lifetimes that I've had to clear because they're all one and the same. Those are lifetimes of God, lifetimes of creation, trying to take back or been created in what was rightfully theirs. Okay. So this land rightfully belonged to someone else. It always belonged to God and it was stolen, just like Jesus's soul. Okay. Now my DM did die on this journey and a lot of people were expecting a man, right? They were. Except God made a man and a female, Adam and Eve. They were twin flames. Okay. That's how the true creation of twin flames came about is, you're supposed to have a feminine counterpart to balance your masculine flow and vice versa. The masculines need that feminine counterpart. It's a part of their soul. It's a part of their purpose. It's a part of all of what we were. God made man and woman, okay? And all of that getting out of balance, chastising women, taking down man, it was all a false goddess and a false masculine, okay? And that's who a lot of people have been praising to. So what I did was I cleared Mount Shasta, took it back, returned the pyramid with the eye, the triangle with the eye, which is all-seeing. That's the all-seeing portal. That is what created that false veil, when they undid that. I returned that back to the God portal. I activated all pyramids across the globe. I rebuilt the crystalline grid underneath them, which is the true energetic center. And I lost my twin flame along the way. I have another one. I don't know who he is. And I am the one who brought it about, okay? Now, as I was doing it, I would talk a lot about the seventh day. Something about the seventh day. I can't remember what workshop it was. It was maybe the ones where I was doing around the equator line, where we move the equator. I moved the equator line, but I did that by activating pyramids in British Columbia, Congo, Mount Kilimanjaro, and Kenya, and also Nigeria, Zimbabwe, and Botswana. And I rearranged all of that, and the masculine's energy was with me because that's what God is the masculine and feminine. That's what I was doing, was returning the twin flames and removing all of the darkness from this earth. So I have cleared all of the collective and individual shadow. And I'm going to tell you guys again, I can't say this enough, is that if you do not heal, okay, and one should be listening to Jesus, right? But people will look at me and go, she's nuts. And you have no idea how I can actually feel that across the collective soul. It hurts, okay? Because I don't have to be a masculine, all right? I am both feminine and masculine. We all are. We all are both. Can God come back as a female? Yes. Okay. When you consider the DM was asleep, he was under that veil. His soul was taken. That was part of the first half of my journey, was freeing his soul. And then I united the twin flames, which was me and my DM. And then he got attacked by a fallen angel, and so did I. And it took me a year to fight for his soul. And in that battle for the soul, it was one of the roughest things I've ever experienced. And all of you have to go through pieces of that. Okay? You have to take your soul back. That's what they talk about, being enslaved. Okay? Now, I can't remember what I was talking about with the seventh day, but it's something very important. It's the day of justice. That's what Spirit is saying. It's the seventh wave of justice, seventh wave of creation, and is now the seventh wave of justice. So I'm not sure about the relevance of that, but we're going to read this. So from the book of Genesis, 3:15 is the first thing I got. Jesus is the promised Redeemer. We had to return Christ, and that had to be done through Jesus, Mary Magdalene, Adam and Eve, and Sekhmet and Horus. Those were the lifetimes where they separated, they tortured, they brutally murdered God. Okay? And unfortunately, a lot of humankind took part in that, unknowingly or knowingly, willingly or unwillingly, through manipulation of free will in a very big way, right? That's exactly what happened. Now, when I was clearing the Nile also, they let me know that they lied to you the whole entire time. The gates of heaven were not here at all. That's what they said. That's what I said in there. They said there was 13 gates, not 12, and not everybody will make it through. Okay, because every gate is a karmic kickback. And I created and opened the gates starting in 2020. So we are being forced through the gates, whether you know it or not. Okay? Jesus is the promised Redeemer. The earth was a formless void, and the darkness covered the face of the deep. While a wind from God swept over the face of the waters. This was what I had gathered that he wanted me to talk about. The earth was a formless void, and the darkness covered the face of the deep. Okay? I showed you my first workshop, All Will Rise, United We Stand, United They Fall. And then I began doing all of the work. While a wind from God swept over the face of the waters. A lot of the work I did, I moved waters. I split waters. When I activated the God portal at Fiji, I split the water in two, and then I walked on water. Okay, in my workshop, in the energy, and what is done in the energy becomes your creation and your reality. Okay, God said, "Let there be light." Then there was light. God said, "Let there be light." Then there was light. God said that the light was good. Then God separated the light from the darkness. This is relevant. Okay, I told you we're in phase 4. This is what God said is in the energy right now. Those who judged will now be judged. Those who tore will now be torn. Those who cast the stones will now be the casted. For I have served justice. On the seventh wave of creation, justice will be served. When you think about my path, I recently tried to show you guys the path through to the gates, the path through to righteousness. And I keep seeing that in everything, God says, follow Jesus. Follow Jesus. That's your way home, right? And I can tell you right now that most people let a lot of darkness in, okay? Anchoring into the right things can provide strength beyond what you imagine. Being mindful of what you're anchored into. I remember saying this a while back on my journey, is be careful what you anchor into. Okay. We need to surrender now our addictions, our vices, things like medications, which was so deeply ingrained and is part of why the next generation wasn't going to live as long either way. Okay? They weren't. We don't realize how far into detriment the entire collective soul had gone. Some knew things were, some were praying daily for the return. The sky is not what you think it is. Okay? God was not what you think she and he were. We need to surrender our fear of intimacy, of connection, of love, of true connection, true intimacy, true love. And the addictions part is everything. So every time that I try to do something right, it'll be, oh, you need this food, or oh, you need to smoke, or oh, you need to do this. When the shadow is ingrained in you, it's a battle. It is something we need to be strong in, okay? And as those who's judged will now be judged, anchoring into the right things will help you survive this, okay? We need to imagine the world we wish to have, because your future is not yet written. This is the great reset. I am taking everything and I am purging all darkness off of this planet. Every past lifetime is involved, and I've talked about that. Not just this lifetime, it's every one of your lifetimes. And if you think for 1 second you didn't have some form and part of the darkness here that you have to purge, that's false. That's ego. We need to learn to be separate from that of the ego. The ego is the shadow. Yet they've spent so long anchoring you in to the shadow, convincing you that it's the end all, it's everything. You must be half dark. I actually saw this again. There's a lady who claims to be a healer, yet she isn't quite as connected as I thought she was. She started talking about, how everything is lining up for the apocalypse, and how the prophecies are true, they're coming true, and she started talking about that. Then she started talking about Mary Magdalene. Now I know right hand that was my lifetime. I had to clear it. I had to undo the false Holy Grail on last Christmas. I did it live on this channel. You can watch it. It came through me. I didn't know what I was doing. I freed Jesus' soul like 2 years prior, and then my DM got attacked as I was uniting with him. And then once he died, I was able to move on and complete the journey. And we completed the dome. And then on Christmas of last year, I united Jesus and Mary Magdalene. I repaired their twin soul, and I undid the false Holy Grail, which was created in Jesus' blood. Those who cast the stones will now be casted. Those who tore will now be torn. My favorite part of this is God swept over the face of the waters. God said, "Let there be light." Then there was light. And God said that the light was good. Then God separated the light from the darkness. The earth was a formless void, and the darkness covered the face of the deep, while a wind from God swept over the face of the waters. This actually explains everything that I've done. Now, this lady was talking about Mary Magdalene, and I realized how people know nothing. They know nothing about the truths in which you speak of. They've been so blinded, and they've anchored into the wrong things. Now, how do we make it through this time of justice being served? Clear your karma. Heal those contracts. Don't erase them. If you did some erasing them, I can help you. But then again, most people don't even want to watch the work that I did, unfortunately. Okay? There's a lot of people out there who claim to know, who claim to be something that they're not. And people fall prey to that. That's ego. That's what I'm talking about. That's ego. Okay? Like, oh, this person's talking about these things. They must know more than I do. That's ego. They follow these things like an addiction. It's an addiction to the false light. Okay? They talked of Mary Magdalene. They talked about these things, but they don't know the true story. They don't know that they were separated. And once that happens, you can't survive. Jesus was murdered. They took his soul. And that's why they would push him on the cross in front of all of you. And everybody's like, oh, pray to the cross. And they didn't realize that they were anchoring into the wrong things. Destruction brings beautiful changes, power to rearrange spaces. Sometimes some of us won't see until everything falls. Surrender those vices. That's where they will get you. And do not be afraid of intimacy. It's time to let love in. True love. Unconditional love. We've been so conditioned. You don't realize how much you've been actually judging God, judging each other, judging yourselves. We don't know how far we can go or how much we can do until we test it. This is true. When my DM was being attacked, they actually said they didn't think I would make it. But I kept anchoring in, and I kept anchoring in, and I kept anchoring into the right things. So anytime those things would try to stop me, the vices, the fears, the torturing, the pain that I was going through, the attacks that I was going through, I would anchor in, and I would anchor in to God. But how do you anchor into God if you don't know God at all? For that sky is not truly the limit. What they've presented to you is not the reality at all. Go into your imagination, go into your heart to find the avenue, the true source of creation, and get ready for destruction, making sure you can anchor into the right things and not into the vices at all. Okay? Those who judged will now be the judged. Those who tore will now be the torn. For I have served justice. On the seventh wave of creation, justice will be served. They told me that I created what I did. I wrote it out. It was my plan. I created the return. I created justice that we are now serving. I created the ascension. I created the plan. I mapped it out. It started at Adam and Eve time frame. I had to clear that one first. I rose Atlantis, sat on Saturn, cleared my contract from Atlantis. I said it would never rise again. I was angry. I cleared that. I freed my soul from there because I saw myself drowned with 3 kids. I was pissed. I was angry. God didn't drown Atlantis. The darkness did. They got my DM to kill me in that lifetime. Okay? Because of the vices, the manipulations, the lies. Then it went into clearing Mount Shasta so I could return that root chakra back to Fiji. And I'm just doodling. I doodle when I channel sometimes, when I'm trying to not think and be in the path. And then I went into clearing all of the pyramids, okay, and activating them and returning the crystalline grid from darkness back to light. And then I removed the collective and individual shadow. What I did was not easy. What I did, it was a path. And the thing is you all have to play out that path now. You don't have a choice. You can make fun of me. You can think what I did is cuckoo or I'm just crazy. Which is funny to me because I actually have the proof. And yet there's people all over the world who claim to be something they're not. Like this lady who claimed to be this healer, this specialist, this heart healer. And I'm like, wait a minute, but she can't see the truths clearly. Doesn't mean she's necessarily not of the light. But she is now all of a sudden talking about Mary Magdalene. So she's seeing something, and there's a reason for that. Again, the lifetimes that I cleared were Adam and Eve, Jesus and Mary Magdalene, and Sekhmet and Horus. And those were all my lifetimes. And every single one of you must serve that righteous path. And in that righteous path, anchoring into the right things and not being afraid of true love is your life support. Healing in the right things. Following the light of God. being in our imagination, which they took away from us so long ago. Destruction brings beautiful things, okay? Everything came from somebody's imagination. So what they want me to say about that is most of the world that you anchored into was false. It came from somebody's imagination. Even the book of Genesis, most of that came from somebody's depiction. Jesus is the promised Redeemer. Do you know Jesus at all? The Son of God. I am the daughter of God. I knew that not that long ago. In the beginning of my journey, I didn't know that. I didn't know who I was or what I was doing. I didn't know why these things were happening to me. I knew I was always different, and I already didn't like that. Because nobody likes to be judged. It hurts. And then when we realize we've all been judging, we've all anchored into the false lights and the falsehoods in a lot of ways. Not everybody, but a lot of people have. And no matter who you are, you will be following the path in which I created. For I have served justice. On the seventh wave of creation, justice is now being served. I'm going to end it with this again because this is what God wanted to say today. Jesus is the promised Redeemer. The earth was a formless void, and the darkness covered the face of the deep, while a wind from God swept over the face of the waters. God said, "Let there be light." Then there was light. God saw that the light was good. Then God separated the light from the darkness. Those who judged will now be the judged. Those who tore will now be the torn. Those who cast the stones will now be the casted. For I have served justice on the seventh wave of creation, and justice will now be served. The seventh wave of creation I found very interesting. In one of the workshops I was doing, I don't remember which one, and I would ask my followers to help me out, but honestly, they haven't been listening to me at all lately. I have actually felt quite alone, and it is what it is. There is still so far we must come to understand love and supporting one another and unity of the one. Now, if I was an ego, everybody would be all over that. People come at you with falsehoods and ego, and that is what people are so used to anchoring into. That's an addiction. That's a vice. For I have no ego. I've healed mine all along the way. And I've come to the consensus that I am love in every way. And love I shall be. Anchoring into the right things, my friends. That will give you the strength beyond what you can imagine. For there really is no limit. The reality in which you were anchoring into was a false creation from somebody's imagination. It was not from God. So be mindful, because most people on this planet do not know the truth at all. So much love to you all. I hope you have a beautiful day. Anchor into love. Anchor into your heart space and allow all the rest to fall away. What is going to get you through this is anchoring into the right things. God saw that the light was good. Then God separated the light from the darkness. The very first workshop I did, I said, united we stand, united they fall. Only the light will survive. Where is that darkness within you? Get rid of it now, my friends. So much love to all of you. Welcome to the seventh wave of creation. That actually has to do with humanity, the seventh wave of creation. And again, I can't remember which workshop it was where I kept saying the seventh day. Something happened on the seventh day. That they lied. This is not. Something else happened on the seventh day. And I kept saying that. And I'm getting chills, and it has everything to do with everything I said today. I created the seventh wave of justice. Take it for what you want. The thing is I can prove that. If you watch the workshops on my channel, if you watch this whole entire channel unfold, if you listen to the videos, the proof is there. The proof is there. And unfortunately, I've had a lot of people hurt me on the journey. A lot of people judge. I've lost a lot of apostles. We were supposed to have 10 apostles following me the whole way through. And then yet the Bible speaks of the apostles of Jesus. And they don't realize that John the apostle is the one who murdered Jesus. And there were other apostles who had to clear their justice and their karma. And they chose not to once again. So is this journey very real? More real than you know. Anchor into the right things, my friends. Let's do that. Anchor into love and supporting one another and not being an ego. For ego is on its way out the door. Be careful. Just be open to allowing the falsehood to fall away and not being afraid. Because if God wants you to go this way, He will provide the way. Just ask and be open. So much love, my friends. Have a beautiful day. You're right where you're supposed to be. The thing is, can you let the false veil fall away and surrender your fear of true intimacy, true love, unconditionally? See you later.